Ready? Hello everyone, and make it and welcome to the quarterfinals of APU and MIDP 2018. I would firstly like to congratulate all teams for making it this far, and please give them a round of applause. In the opening government, we have DJ Sea Serpent. The opening opposition, we have IIUM. In the closing government, we have UTPFW, and in closing opposition, we have KTJ Uchux Raver. I'll be your chair today, handling with me will be Dinesh, Roshan, Sarah Shafiq, King, and who's yeah. Okay, since there's a crowd in this room, I'll just give some general briefing. Please leave the room only between speeches. Don't answer your phone here. Don't talk to your friends because it'll disturb us listening to the speakers. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome my next.
I think in a world where people think that their jobs are fulfilling and their career will make them lead them to have a happier life, I think it's a much more harmful world compared to the world that government proposes. The world in which the government works is when people go to work like it's just a normal thing where you just get money and then you come back home and you do whatever you want. The world outside opposition is a world where you always go to work. You work longer hours. You really do all your work projects in order to get your extra money to feel more fulfilled in your life. This means you're likely to drop out things that you don't like as much because you feel that things like being a doctor compared to being an actor is more sustainable in your life and more easier for you to fund your income and lead a happier life. This is the world the side opposition proposes, and this is the one that we won't support in the side of government. The stance in our world is very simple. We want these people to be able to find other forms of happiness and utility and not depend on something that's unstable, such as your jobs. Yeah, okay. So the problem with depending on your job for utility and happiness is because your job is always unstable. There's a lot of up and downs in your jobs. For example, you might get fired. Maybe your projects that you need to do don't come in handy, or maybe they don't get enough money. Maybe you get discriminated in your office and this makes you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to do your job anymore. You can't opt out of this job inside of opposition because first of all, you take a really long time to do your degree, and then you also need to pursue your job because those are the things that you like to do, and also you earn a lot of money from it and you feel comfortable with those jobs. I think it's far easier in the world of government where you're easier to opt out and opt into jobs that you like, and this is the world that we want. There's lots more other forms of happiness under the side of government. For example, you can use forms of happiness like family and religion that brings you happiness and solace. That's more important in the world of government, where you depend on something that's more dependable and have a better structure for you to depend on. But in the world of opposition, the only thing they look at is always their career. The only thing they care about is their universities that they go to, the degrees they hold, the jobs they pursue. Moving on my first argument, why people will never ever be fulfilled in their life and how this affects minorities such as poor people. These people will always believe that their career should be fulfilled because of the strong narrative that people always tell you. Like for example, people hang up pictures on the wall, people being happy in the workplace and getting lots of money. These are all narrative that coerces you to believe that jobs are things that you should depend on and are very important things in your life. They always feel the career is everything to them. And whenever you have a normal job like a mama store worker or your Ramly burger worker, you always don't feel satisfied and you always want more. This means everything that you work for or anything that you cannot achieve, you always feel depressed about it and you cannot move on in life because that's the only thing that bothers you in your mind. The side of government lets you do whatever you want, lets you be anyone you want, where you're comfortable with it, where it's something that you like to do, and it's far easier in a world like that. You can also find a lot of other utility and source of happiness in the world of government. I think it's far better in the world of government where you depend on things like religion and family and friends compared to unstable structures that can make you happy, such as jobs. I think the only people that can find happiness in jobs are people who are super successful, like really rich and really comfortable and really love their jobs. Maybe you say that maybe if you pursue that, maybe that a small minority of people will find these jobs. I think it's a far better trade-off that you only find a little bit of people who are really happy compared to the world of government, where there are other forms of happiness which can also back you up and also pursue your jobs. Second argument on why minorities will always feel worse under the side of side of opposition. When you go to their jobs and people see them being gay or see them being homophobic, this is where discrimination happens in the workplace in and of itself. Means your colleagues calling you out and saying that you're gay or you're a lesbian. This hurts you as an individual. Means every time you want to do your job, you always feel demotivated and you have no other forms of happiness. Why doesn't other form of happiness work under the side of opposition? You only focus on your job. You only focus on studying and getting a better job and always improving your lifestyle. This doesn't work because you don't have any form of happiness. You only depend on your job and your money and the things that you can buy with those to make you happy under the side of opposition. Okay, these are things that will make you depressed and make you unhappy in the world of opposition. When your job fails you, when you get fired from your job, this is where you're super depressed and you're super unlikely to go on and go to better jobs or go to jobs that are more sustainable and can help you in the future. This is where you get up because jobs have ups and downs. You have unstable salaries. You have discrimination towards these poor people. This is where it leads to depression and things like this. And before going on,
how does your structures of friend, family, and religion provide a practical benefit which job can provide you money that with which you can go to hospitals and get food?
Okay, we're not saying that you don't have jobs in our world. You also have jobs. You don't depend on them for a source of happiness. Because we also have family, we have friends, we have religion, but we also have a job because like you need money, like everyone needs money. So these are the types of things that I think opposition needs to understand. But these are the important things that we are bringing up as side of government. I think it's far better in a world where minorities and people are more protected and happier with their lives. And it's far better in a world where people shouldn't be afraid to go to work or shouldn't be afraid to pursue other things or do better things in their life. I think in a world where you get much more happiness, a lot more happiness is a far better world that you want to do. Next, I think when there's when there's two job offers or like two things that you want to do in your mind. For example, if you really love being an actor, but you feel that you won't get as much pay because of the places you are in and things like this. And you also want to, and you see that your friend who's being a doctor is wealthy and rich and everything. I think it's easier in the world of opposition where you're going to be a doctor, where you're not even happy with your job, but at least it gives you wealth and money. That's where I think it's unfair for you to just say that it's something like that you want in your world compared to our world where you also get your happiness, you also get a job that gives you benefits and also have all these things in the world of government. With all those reasons, very proud to propose.
I would like to thank the speech in the side of opposition. I'd like to invite the leader of opposition. Yeah.
Okay, the government comes and tells us today that you don't necessarily need to depend on job for you to be happy. And they talk about issues of discrimination and racism which happens in religion, which happens if someone is doing in a career. In any other form of, any other aspect of thing that you might do, if you're focusing your happiness on a religion, if you're focusing your happiness on any other factor in life, for example, if you're focusing your happiness on a family, all these things can still happen. All this still can still happen. So this one, firstly, is not mutually exclusive. But in my case, I will take it as a worst case scenario, and I'll tell you why this is not true. But firstly, they talk about the issues on how minorities are more likely to be not happy with what they're doing. So firstly, you need to understand exactly what do we mean by a career, and which you don't need really tell us exactly what is a career, and what we mean by fulfilling, which I'll talk about in in my speech. So most of the things regarding minorities and how this will be easier for you to get a job and to have a better life, I will talk about them in my speech, and most of the rebuttals will be integrated. But firstly, I'll point about few certain things. So when we are talking about a career, it doesn't mean like for you to have a career, you have to be working in a certain bank or institution or insurance company. One's career can be to become an actor. One can have a career to be a chef. One can have a career to do any sort of job, and it doesn't really have to be linked directly with the pay. A career is something that you aspire to become. It doesn't have to be the maximum pay, but it's something that you want to work in. That's your career. So even if your career is to become a chef in the road, that's your career. It doesn't mean that it has a maximum pay. And we think if you wanted to do that, even if you see other people are working in banking institution, it doesn't mean that you won't feel happy because you're doing something that you really want. So that is not true. But talking about the issue of fulfilling. So we think that fulfilling, it can be in terms of happiness, it can be in terms of monetary forms, it can be in terms of a good life and something like that. So how do we do so in our side? So we believe having a narrative that a career is fulfilling can be achieved by people having more information on what they are likely to be doing if they opt to do a certain or a particular kind of job. That means if you're going to be a doctor, what are you likely to do? That's how you get informed about the career, and that's how you get to choose a certain career which will fulfill you. Because otherwise, how are you going to opt into a certain job if you don't really know about it? So we think that firstly, you need to have all this kind of information. Then because you have the information, that's only when you can choose, this is my career. So 3 things in my speech. Firstly, I will talk about how things are in the status quo and how we are going to build a more generally society on our side. And secondly, I will tell you how this is going to develop better performances and the harms which will exist if we don't have this narrative. And thirdly, I'll tell you how this exactly is going to push the employers to give better pay to their employees and to exercise more rights to their employees. So firstly, what happens in the status quo? So what happens in the status quo is society is built upon this idea, the whole idea that you cannot really be satisfied with what you do. You have to pick here, you have to pick here, here, and here for you to become satisfied. You cannot achieve happiness just by having one thing. And we think this is a really bad narrative. Because we want to build a society whereby a person have a certain job and which makes him happy. So this is very important because firstly, if you're coming from a minority like what they're saying, if you're coming from a poor society, then you can only work harder to achieve a certain thing because you know if I achieve that thing, I have happiness as compared to their side. Because they are telling them whatever you want to achieve, it will never fulfill your satisfaction. Because career is not something that is going to make you feel happy. But we are telling them you can be happy by achieving this satisfaction. So firstly, we are pushing them to work harder to achieve their dreams as compared to their side. Number 2. We also believe that it's enough, it's fair, as I told you. Even if the job is not really that much paying, as long as we are pushing them to achieve things that which will make them happy, it's fine. Because for them to have happiness, that's already important. We are making a society of people who are more happy, they live in happiness, even though their job is not fulfilling, because money is not everything. As long as they achieve their dreams, we think that is more important, especially for these minorities, because they need to come up with this from this poverty cycle and to feed their families and so forth and so forth. But before I move on, yes.
Oftentimes, there are structures in society that doesn't allow a minority individual to opt into a job that he or she feels is fulfilling. Why is this narrative then?
Firstly, that's not also exclusive in a side because it will exist whether you tell them or you don't tell them. But what we need to defend today is the fact that the minorities are pushed to become even harder. Yes, it's difficult, but at least on our side, we are pushing the minority. Work hard. You might achieve a certain thing. Even if it doesn't pay you more, you can still be happy. We think that's more important. Number 2, how does this develop a sense of love and better performance? So as I told you in the status quo, the narrative that exists is that no career can fulfill your job. So what happens when this is the narrative? That means if I'm opting for a certain career, that means I want to become a government leader, my only aim is, okay, I'll be a government leader and I'll take money from here and here and here because it's never going to fulfill. Yeah. So we're saying that this is bad because firstly, you're not going to do the job with better performance. That means you're not going to do it from your heart. This is why we have problems of leaders who come into power and do corruption because their job, the intention was not, because we think like the information will be there about this career. So the intention was not to attain the job so that they can achieve their career, but their intention is, the narrative that exists is that a certain job is not going to fulfill your needs. So they opt for this job, and at the end of the day, because they are not satisfied, because they did not expect it, they end up being corrupt leaders and steal from stuff like that. Also, we believe like for minorities and societies like LGBT, we think that this is very harmful because this is the point where we have scam movement. We have LGBT movement who do not really stand for the rights of LGBT because they did not know what they're expecting from their careers. And they only come, the only thing that they know, you have to be from here, you have to pick from here, you cannot be satisfied with one thing. And this is why they don't really stand for the rights of the minority. And we think this is very harmful because at the end of the day, we are not really helping them to move out from their problems. And number 3, how this is going to push employers to have better pay and to treat people fairly. So we think that, as I told you, that society is built upon the narrative that a certain job can never be fulfilling. So therefore, the status quo is that even the employers know, like if a person is applying for my job, he's just going to work for me. But if we have this incentive and narrative in society that a certain job can be fulfilling, because of this narrative, people will choose a career that they know, because they already have information that this career gives me a certain thing. That means they are more likely to have to choose a certain thing that they want to do. But there is the employers will want to make sure that what they are offering, people opt to go for it. That means they'll make efforts to attract people to choose their careers, because that's what they want people to work for them, right? So if there is this incentive, that makes sure that this will push the employers. There is an incentive for employers to make sure that even if they don't really pay as much, but at least they provide better working environment that people can opt into their career. So we believe this will push people to promote better working rights and stuff. That means if people go to that working institution, they can have better working conditions. They can have, at least even if the pay is not much, we are pushing the employers to provide them their rights, because they want these people to opt into their career. So it's very important in today's debate, as I told you. Firstly, it's the information about the careers will already be available, because people know. But if you're pushing this narrative, that means there is an incentive for people to know, if I opt for this career, this is what I'm getting myself into. So I believe that they will choose something that they really want. And even if at the end of the day, the pay is not really as much, at least we are pushing them to work harder. At least we are pushing for the people who are employing them to better promote their rights. And with that, go on to the
I think we had a really confusing clash in the start of this debate, right? So your opposition comes up here to tell you that your fulfillingness doesn't have to come from money, but can come from happiness, but also can come from money. So, and then of course, government told you things like your jobs shouldn't be fulfilling. You should just get it at a very objective standpoint. So I'll clarify this. The world of government looks at, I think that firstly, we need to understand what fulfillingness means. To every individual, it can mean different things. To some individuals, it may just mean getting more money, and like because money gives me fulfillingness. To some individuals, it's just being happier with the job. But on the side of government, we'll tell you two things. One, you take the jobs that you're best at, you take the jobs that you want. But the jobs that you get don't necessarily have to be fulfilling. It's something that's extremely objective. You just go do the job and come back. But yeah, so I think that's what the world of government looks like. The world of opposition looks like a world where they tell individuals that jobs should be fulfilling. You need to like your job. You need to get good pay. The job should be the ideal job that you like and that it's one that you see. Before I move on, several rebuttals. So the side of opposition tells us two things. One, you push minorities and poor people to work harder because now their job should be fulfilling. That's wrong. You need to understand the structures in society that just doesn't allow your minorities to get any forms of happiness. If you're a gay individual, oftentimes big MNCs reject your job application. They don't give you the job that you want. You're often pushed into very low-income jobs. If you're a poor individual, you can't access those big jobs that you like. You can't be a singer because you just may not have the looks. If you think that fulfillingness comes from being a singer, you need to, or an actor, and you don't have the looks. Oftentimes, there's just structures that make sure that you cannot get your dream job. It's extremely difficult. In these scenarios, we tell you that these individuals are likely to feel that the jobs that they now opt into are ones that they're likely to feel bad because these careers that they wanted or the careers that they expected to give them fulfillingness cannot be accessed by these individuals. This is even more harmful because it doesn't matter if they want to work harder, but more importantly, why would you want these minorities who are already suffering, who are already in so much pain, to have to push themselves in structures that's extremely difficult just to achieve your fulfillingness that we tell you is extremely hard to achieve, because these jobs are often not credited. These jobs are not credited. It's extremely lower end jobs, right? But before I move on, closing.
So poor people are told that you're not going to make it, rather just work in MIDP when they have dreams and aspirations they want to do. Why can't we tell them that your career can be fulfilling and you should aim for it, as opposed to just playing it safe?
I think it's better to play it safe than to be rejected, because you actually put everything you have like put everything you have into going to that job, but just rejected, right? It's better play safe. But then this is where my first argument comes in on why you are able to access better and more stable forms of happiness. We tell you that the difference between your jobs that's unstable and the family structure or the religious structure that you have is one. I don't understand this minority, gay individual finding happiness in religion, because they don't find happiness in religion, they find happiness in other things like their gay community in and of itself. But for these individuals, because your family loves you, right, there's very strong familial ties, you're likely to harp on that and just like work on making your family ties better and more and just better, and find happiness with your family ties. You also likely to find happiness within your friends, go out with your friends more, and expect that these are your forms of happiness, not your career. Your career, if you expect your career to be fulfilling, but your career just screws you up, you'll never be able to achieve happiness because you're constantly trying to strive for more, but then the career is just pushing you back. And I think that's where society is just so screwed up, because the society is like, we are in very capitalist structures where your MNCs prioritize money, and your jobs often just aren't fulfilling. It's being about extremely productive, extremely objective things like this. But society also tells you that your job needs to be fulfilling. So one, you need to get money, but two, it also needs to be fulfilling. This is when people are often extremely confused and extremely worse off because they expect their jobs to be fulfilling. But then we also tell you things like your employers will have an incentive to give you more pay. I disagree. Employers in society are just extremely profit incentivized. They don't care about the people who are working beneath them, right? This is when these individuals can't opt out, and they believe that their jobs will be fulfilling, but when they are not, they just are worse off. But here's the thing: we tell you that in our world, individuals will still go into the job that they feel like they're better off at, and they feel like they're better off at, and they feel that they have better chances at. So if I'm a poor person, I will still want, and I feel like I'm good at something, I'll still go into it. I don't expect it to be fulfilling. I don't have preconceived expectations of it. I just do it because I feel like it will give me money, and it'll be something that I'm good at. It's far worse on your side when everything is contingent upon these jobs, and just you expect it to be fulfilling. But oftentimes, here's why you can't opt out. Because if you're especially if you're an individual who goes into a job, it's actually extremely exclusive towards rich individuals. If you're an individual who goes into a job and finds that it just isn't fulfilling, for you to opt out, take another college degree, for you to just try to get another form of job, or because oftentimes are contingent upon the degree that you have, or your experience that you have. If you're at an older age and you find that your job just isn't fulfilling, you can't opt out, right? You're likely to have work feeling that your job will be fulfilling at the end, but it just isn't fulfilling. You can't opt out because people look at the experience that you have within that job. If your experience is in a different sector, it's extremely difficult for you to opt out. On our world, we'll tell you that your job isn't meant to be fulfilling. It's just meant for you to get money, and it's extremely objective. These are individuals who are from the very get-go believe that their jobs will be objective and find happiness from the very start. Here's why it's different on their world. From our world, we need to tell individuals from the very get-go that their jobs may not be fulfilling, so that they can learn to find happiness from other things from the very start and expect it. On their world, they constantly lie to individuals telling you that your job should be fulfilling. If you can't achieve it, these individuals cannot never opt out and can never achieve the form of happiness that they want to, and minorities are screwed over the most.
Alright, thanks for the speech, and I realize that we